Alright, so the job market report is here for the month of August, and Canada has lost 66,000 jobs in 1 month, and that's horrible. The unemployment rate in Canada stands at 7.1%, which is the highest since 2016 if you don't count the pandemic. I'm sure you have already seen all these numbers on YouTube and in the news. And like all these news articles and videos say, it's horrible. But is it? I'm a numbers guy and very research oriented, and therefore I do not take headlines as my source of truth. A lot of these articles and videos that I see online are simply taking this particular page that you see with me. It's a pretty detailed page. It's pretty nice. It's a good summary, but all they have done is summarize this in a video, and that's not the whole truth. So what I'll do today is I'll go through the report with you. We'll look at the highlights, and then we'll go one step deeper into what that actually means and how all of this breaks down for you. So let's look at this highlights report. It's by StatsCan. It's who does this survey every single month. So employment declined by 66,000 in August, largely the result of decline in part-time work. So that's something that I'm not seeing in the articles that are being published. The official summary actually says that in the first line, and we'll break it down in a bit, but there's more nuances to it. It also breaks down into which fields are losing their jobs. We'll talk about that one by one and what it means for you, but I want to go deeper into numbers. It talks about hourly wages that have not changed a lot. It has increased a little, but it's nowhere beating inflation. I'm not saying this job report is amazing, but it's not that bad, is all I'm saying. Now, employment falls the second month in a row, so that we already know. Aged men, unemployment rate rises to 7.1% in August. It breaks down by Calgary and different provinces. Unemployment rate for core aged men and women, it talks about, different demographics here. Few people employed in professional, scientific and technical services, transportation, warehousing, manufacturing. It breaks down the numbers here. Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, obviously these are the biggest provinces, and, that's where the, employment declines. All this is, great, right? Amazing information, amazing comparisons. So what I want us to pay attention to is these tables below. This is where the summary was made, and I want us to break down this 66,000 jobs number into different demographics and who is losing the job and which industries are impacted the most, and is there any truth that private sector is losing more jobs than public sector than something else. We'll talk all about that, and all that is here, and this actually will also let you know how your industry would be impacted in the future. So data is really powerful. If we deep dive into this, when we see 66,000 jobs lost, there are two things that happen, right? One is we fear for the economy. Oh no, there are so many people who are losing jobs. This will happen, that will happen, right? True, right? All that is true. But the other thing is that we also get scared for ourselves. But we can actually look at the information, break it down, and see whether that fear that we have looking at the 66,000, job loss number, is it even true for ourselves? And these tables actually give a fair idea of that. So let's look at the first table, which is just, breaking it down by age group and gender, but that's not, what we are going to see. What we are going to see is the 65.5 thousand, the 66,000 is in fact 65.5. That's the number that's declined. And all of it is coming from part-time employment. 6,000 jobs lost. All these numbers are in thousands. 6,000 jobs lost in full-time employment as well. But all of this 66,000, almost all of it, 95% of it is coming from part-time employment. So it's not that everyone is losing their jobs. It's just the contract workers, the part-time workers, people who were already on thin ice. They were not getting full-time hours, or someone had a sudden demand in their job. For instance, in COVID, a lot of healthcare workers were hired on part-time, and those are the kind of jobs that are being lost right now. So if you are someone, what I find from here is that if you are someone who is a contract worker or who has a part-time job, especially in an industry which is hit by tariffs or by AI, you are on thin ice. Not everyone is on thin ice right now. Now let's go to the second table, which is employment by class of workers. And this was very, very interesting for me. Again, I told you that the part-time jobs were lost. This actually validates. So the 66,000 people that lost their jobs, 42,000 people, were self-employed. Self-employed is basically part-time work. They are on T4As. They are not a full-time employee with benefits. So this actually validates our, the first table where it said that, it's just a part-time work that's being lost. And this number, self-employed, validates that. These are the T4A employees that do not get all the benefits, and they are either not working full-time hours, and they are paid, in a corporation, or they are paid separately but not on payrolls of the company. And that's what makes 42,000. If you go down, you can actually break it down by industry, and we'll see that the biggest hit is manufacturing. Of course, because of tariffs, manufacturing will be hit. Service, based jobs are pretty hard hit, but it's not all the industries. Transport and warehousing, again, tariffs hit. It's clear if you are working in transport and warehousing. A lot of our clients, some of our clients are working in these industries, and they are not putting offers right now because they already know that their jobs can go away. Professional, scientific, and technical services. Now, this particular section is almost like 2 million jobs, and this includes your engineers, your accountants. I'm pretty sure it includes that. Yeah, accountants and engineers, that's included here. And all these people are losing. There are also some healthcare workers that are included here. Now, I don't have the complete breakdown, but it's not just because of tariffs. It's also because of AI and automation that, these people are losing jobs. That's 26,000 jobs that are lost. 18,000 jobs lost in education services. That makes sense because of the cap they've put on students coming in. There's population is not really growing, and therefore the need for those teachers that were hired for Conestoga College and all these colleges, and all that is not happening, right? There are no students coming in. There's a cap on the number of students that are coming in, and all these colleges are firing a lot of the employees, and that's where a big impact is. So when we see the 66,000 number of jobs lost, we need to ask ourselves, are we impacted? And it's more if you are in the industries where you are impacted by tariffs, or you are in the education sector which is impacted by the low intake of students, only then this job market report should worry you. Now let's look at the third table, which is breaking it down by province. And obviously I'll just skip the smaller provinces. I'll just straight away move to Quebec, for instance, and you will see that they actually added the number of jobs. They added about 7,000 jobs. Full-time employment was a little bit weak there, so 14,000 jobs got lost, but there was more part-time. So not all provinces are the same, by the way. Quebec is behaving a little bit differently. Plus, the unemployment rate in Quebec is not that alarming. It's about 6%. Now, 6% is also high, but it's not as high as other provinces. Ontario is slightly different. It is losing a lot of employment, and it's largely driven by part-time, unemployment. So the numbers that we saw federally, they are more driven by Ontario, which makes sense because it employs more than half the population, working population. Then if you go to Alberta, Alberta is the same, where part-time employment is what's getting impacted and not the full-time employment. So it's no, not everyone is losing jobs right now. It's just, largely driven by the part-time employment, the contract workers, the people who are not getting full hours. Those are the hours that are being cut, and that makes sense. British Columbia is almost the same, but yeah, there they have lost 9,000 jobs. And again, British Columbia is not really a place where there's a lot of companies that are headquartered, and a lot of the part-time employment and remote work employment happens in British Columbia. Plus, there are a lot of self-employed people as well in British Columbia. So, I don't think this report fully encompasses what British Columbia's real picture is. But again, if you are in Ontario, just know that a lot of these numbers are driven, fully driven by part-time unemployment. Now you can go to, if you really want to get into the numbers and you are worried about your job, I would encourage you to go into this particular report, which actually breaks it down by province, by industry, and you'll know exactly which industries are impacted. So let's look at Ontario, for instance. So if I go to Ontario, if you are in Ontario right now, you would know exactly which who is losing. So everything is driven by service based sector. Professional, scientific, and technical services are losing about 13,000 of those jobs. 17,000 are in educational services. Transport, I see that it's not impacted a lot. So we know that transport is not driven by Ontario, for instance. And if I were to break down what's impacting transportation, I am assuming it will be British Columbia. So if I go to British Columbia, it'll be about 8,000 jobs lost in British Columbia. So again, every province is different. depending on which province you are looking at, just don't look at the headlines and say that all jobs are at risk or my job is at risk. Look at the numbers and see whether it's true for your particular profession in the province that you live in. If you are an investor right now, if you're thinking of buying an investment property right now, I would go and look at table number 12. This gives me an unemployment rate by market, and I see a lot of people buying in some of these smaller markets right now, but you need to look at the unemployment rate, and that would determine whether you will get rents or not, or whether you will get good tenants or not. So let's take an example in Ontario again, smaller markets. Let's look at Ottawa, 7.6. It's not as bad, in context of what Ontario is overall. It's, pretty much at parity. But some of these provinces like, Windsor is about 13% unemployment. I don't know if you have London. London is not that bad, 7.3. So Niagara is 9.5% unemployment. So some of these places where there is a lot of rental potential, the prices are in those range, the unemployment is also very high. That basically means the quality of tenants might not be as good, and therefore as an investor, I personally would not want to invest in some of these places, at least right now. And then the biggest revelation for me was table number 13, where I saw that most of these job losses, the part-time job losses, is not happening in the age groups that you and I are in. It's happening with students. If you look at students here, we'll see that there's a massive change. And where can I look at it here? So 38,000 jobs lost, part-time jobs lost by students. I'm not saying that the economy is not shit right now. It's shit. This number should not be 66 negative. It should be positive 100,000 jobs created every single month. That's how it is in a booming market. But that's not the case right now. But also the reality is that not everyone is losing their jobs. The private sector is not losing the jobs. It's mostly the contractors, the students, people who are at the lowest rung in the organization, which are impacted by AI and automation. Those are the people who are impacted, at least right now. Now, any of these reports and headlines cannot predict what's happening to you personally. Only you know whether your job is getting impacted by tariffs or automation. And if that's the case, do not be in denial. Have a conversation with your manager to see what the future of the company and you in the company is. And if you are running on thin ice, do not make any big decisions, including buying a home right now. I recently made a video on how AI is taking Canadian jobs and how to survive this. And if you are interested, you can watch that video by clicking on the link here. That's all I have for today. मिलते हैं अगली वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए बाय बाय।